Welcome to Alaska Weather. This is Eric Holloway with the National Weather Service with Alaska statewide weather for July 17th, 2020. We have a couple options for you, a 1-800 number that'll get you through a menu system, and we also have a weather.gov webpage. If you take off Alaska and put on Anchorage, Juneau, or Fairbanks, it will help you further refine your search. And it will also get you to the Wawa map that will help you plan for your outdoor activities or general travel across the state. Lastly, we do give you an email that you can contact us there at the end of the page, bottom of the page. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about the program, please don't hesitate to contact us. For the hazards map, once again, nothing in the Wawa map currently, but like I mentioned before, please take a look at this before you head out. Conditions can change rapidly. I will note that we do have a hydrologic outlook for the southeast, the panhandle, for periods of heavy rain possible late this weekend into Monday morning. So be cognizant of that. Looking at the fire danger, I took off any high fire danger here today. It looked like it wasn't as promising as it was yesterday, so there's nothing current out for the fire danger. It's been a relatively mild fire year for Alaska so far this year. Alaska's wildlife fire information: the lightning strikes yesterday were only 1,303 strikes for July 16th. Most of those were clustered around the Alaska Range, Susitna Valley, and then over into the Kuskokwim Basin and scattered about in the upper Yukon and upper Tanana. Otherwise, there was some lightning strikes up there in the western Brooks Range and in the Kobuk-Noatuk valleys. Precipitation estimates for July 17th ending at 4 a.m. this morning. There was a cluster of some rainfall in the Tanana, Alaska Range area. It looks like there was approximately between ½ inch and an inch in some areas there. Also in the uplands area. And also light rainfall throughout much of the mainland down into the peninsula, Kodiak Island. Less rainfall amounts along the panhandle with less than 1/10 of an inch in some areas. Looking at the satellite image, you can see low pressure system near just south of the eastern Aleutians, spreading light rain and fog across portions of the southern Bering into the central Aleutians, and a little bit of rainfall there. Otherwise, ridge-of pressure poking into the Bering Sea, and you can see some flare-ups again in the afternoon hours there north of Fairbanks in the upper Yukon River Basin. And lastly, we see another low pressure system approaching the panhandle with clouds and light rainfall there. What does this look like on the surface map? Today's weather, there's that ridge out there in the Bering, 1,018 millibars there, fog through the southern Bering, central Aleutians, and fog and rainfall in the tip of the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, thermal trough and low pressure systems across the interior and down in the southwest over into British Columbia. Thunderstorm activity can be expected even into the Brooks Range, and there's that low pressure system in the Gulf, 1,006 millibars there. Relatively stationary warm front. Some moderate rainfall reported this afternoon. Tonight's weather, that weakening low in the Aleutians, ridge pressure continues out in the Bering, western Aleutians, and the low weakens further in the Gulf to just a trough now. And again, some rainfall associated with that system down the panhandle into the northern Gulf. Otherwise, lingering rain showers across the interior tonight and fog showing up along the Arctic coast. For Saturday's weather, again, afternoon thunderstorm activity, thermal lows, thermal trough extending over into British Columbia, also low in near the panhandle, spreading light rain now, and also shortwave trough now through the Alaska Peninsula, spreading fog and rainfall there, and 1,050 millibar high continues in the Bering. fog associated with that system. For Sunday's weather, another warm front approaching the Panhandle, and this is what will bring some heavy precipitation expected for the Panhandle again on Sunday. Otherwise, afternoon thunderstorms through the interior, even a cold front moving into the Arctic coast. Otherwise, 1,018 millibar high, and the Bering fog associated with that system. Low temperatures Saturday morning, looking at 30s across the North Slope, Kaktovik 32, Dead Horse 34, 32 in Ukqiavik, Point Hope 45, and then 50 at Fort Yukon, Eagle 49, Fairbanks 54, Tanana 50, Galena 52, McGrath 52, 50s down through the southwest, Bethel 54, King Salmon 52, Dillingham 54, 50s and upper 40s through the rest of the Alaska Peninsula and into the Aleutians, with Cold Bay 50, 50 in Dutch Harbor as well. St. Paul 45, Savunga 40, Kodiak 54, Kodiak area 54, Yakutat 52, Haines 54, State Capital Juneau 54, and 54 in Ketchikan. For high temperatures Saturday afternoon, warming up to the upper 30s to low 40s across the North Slope, Kaktovik 38, 38 in Ukqiavik, 52 now in Point Hope, 67 there in Fort Yukon, 70 in Bettles, and Tuvik Pass 45, Ambler 68, 70 in Eagle, 65 in Fairbanks, 65 in Tanana, 67 in Galena, 67 down in McGrath, upper 60s through much of the southwest with Bethel 67, and King Salmon 65, Dillingham 65 as well, 50s through the Alaska Peninsula and into the Aleutians with Shimia 49, St. Paul 56, 49 in Savunga, and 59 in Kodiak, Cordova 58, 63 in Seward, 65 in Anchorage, Yakutat 58, Haines 58, 56 in Juneau, 59 in Ketchikan. For Sunday morning's overnight lows, 32 in Kaktovik, 30s across the North Slope, with Dead Horse 34, Ukqiavik 32, Point Hope 43, 40 in Arctic Village, and then 43 in Fort Yukon, 45 in Bettles, Ambler 45, 47 in Eagle, 52 in Fairbanks, Tanana 50, Galena 52, Nome 49, 49 in Northway, McKinley Park area 45, 52 in McGrath, 52 in Aniak, 50 in Bethel, 52 in King Salmon, 54 in Dillingham, 50s through the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians with Cold Bay 50, Dutch Harbor 50, Shimia 45, 45 in St. Paul and Savunga 41, Kodiak 54, Seward 50, Homer 52, 54 in Cordova area, and then 52 in Yakutat, 54 in Haines, 52 in Juneau, 54 in Ketchikan. Lastly, for Sunday afternoon, high temperatures looking at 40s across the North Slope, Kaktovik 40, Dead Horse 45, 40 in Ukqiavik, 50 in Point Hope, 56 in Arctic Village, Attican Pass, 67 in Fort Yukon, 70 in Eagle, Bettles 63, Tuvik Pass 49, 47 in Ambler, 67 in Fairbanks, Tanana 65, 65 in Galena, 68 in McGrath, 61 in Lime Village, 61 in Aniak, 63 in Bethel, 65 in Dillingham, 65 in King Salmon, 63 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 61, 56 in Dutch Harbor, 50s through the Alaska Peninsula and into through the Aleutians with 49 at Shimia, and then 58 in Haines, 56 in Yakutat, 56 in State Capital Juneau, and 61 in Ketchikan, and lastly Anchorage 61 for Sunday afternoon.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the flying weather for Saturday morning. looking at marginal conditions spread out through the North Slope with scattered areas of IFR conditions up that way. Otherwise, high pressure building into the Bering provides some areas of marginal conditions in the Bering and through the Aleutians. Weak low pressure near Alaska Peninsula will again produce some IFR conditions in the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians, but otherwise general cloudiness through the mainland, not enough to produce marginal conditions, but otherwise IFR conditions in the Gulf region with marginal conditions out on the Panhandle. For Saturday afternoon, marginal conditions along the North Slope, IFR conditions through much of the Bering with that ridge of high pressure, and into the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Moisture is slowly creeping into the south central area and southwest with marginal conditions through the Alaska Range and down through the southwest and in through the Alaska Peninsula, and IFR conditions in the Gulf and into the Panhandle as well. Sunday morning, with another system moving into the southern mainland, IFR conditions extensive through the Gulf region into the Panhandle, out through the Alaska Peninsula and into the Bering and portions of the eastern Aleutians with marginal conditions scattered throughout the mainland and into Alaska Range, Norton Sound, and along the North Slope with IFR conditions there in the Arctic coast. Sunday afternoon, again, marginal conditions scattered throughout much of south central Alaska Range into St. Elias Mountains and scattered through the interior and through the Brooks Range and along the Arctic coast. IFR conditions throughout the Bering Sea with marginal conditions attempting to poke into portions of the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians and into the south central area, mountainous areas, and IFR conditions in the Gulf and Panhandle. Past conditions, we'll be looking at Anaktuvuk Pass, VFR conditions with marginal across the north entrance with thunderstorms across the mountains. Much the same for Atigan with thunderstorm activity across the mountains, marginal conditions on the north entrance. Marginal conditions for Lake Clark and Merrill with thunderstorms in the mountainous areas in the afternoon. Rainy thunderstorms in the afternoon, otherwise marginal conditions there. Windy Pass, again mountains, we'll see some afternoon thunderstorms, otherwise marginal conditions. Isabel, marginal with thunderstorms in the afternoon, and much the same for Mentasta. Tanita, VFR early, and then we'll see some afternoon cloudiness with marginal conditions there. Portage, when continuous marginal conditions down that way, and for Chilkoot and White Pass, marginal decreasing to IFR conditions on Saturday. For freezing levels, looking at 8,000 foot freezing level through much of the mainland, 10,000 foot freezing level poking into south central area. Surface freezing level out along the Arctic coast, but otherwise 10,000 foot freezing level through the Panhandle into the Gulf and out through the Aleutians into the Bering. And icing Saturday between 7 and 10,000 feet across portions of the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. And I went for below 5,000 feet along portions of the Arctic coast there. For jet stream Saturday, low pressure system in the eastern Aleutians, 85 knots across into the Gulf area, 80s as you cross into Kodiak Island with winds from the west, and 35 knots as you get into south central area, but otherwise light and variable across much of the mainland. Otherwise 70 knots just off the northwest coast up there. Otherwise 50 and 30 knots across the Panhandle. And for Saturday night, the 1,000 foot winds, light and variable across the mainland. You have to get into the Gulf area to get to 65 knots around a high pressure ridge. And for 3,000 foot levels on Saturday, light and variable across much of the mainland. Turbulence Saturday, looking at below 6,000 foot and scattered across the Alaska Range and into the uplands area and into the northeast Gulf Coast.
Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us. Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us.
What is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Well, first, let's talk about what it's not. It's not a floating island of trash like a garbage dump or a landfill. It's also not the only patch. They exist all throughout the ocean, and the Pacific Garbage Patch just happens to be the most famous. Garbage patches are large areas of marine debris concentration that are formed by rotating ocean currents called gyres, kind of like big whirlpools that suck things in. A garbage patch is made up of tiny plastic pieces called microplastics that are less than 5 millimeters long. It's more like pepper flakes swirling in a soup than something you can skim off the surface. You might come across some larger items like plastic bottles, but it's possible to sail through a garbage patch and not see anything. And they're a big problem for the ocean and us. People often ask why we can't just scoop up all the marine debris in the ocean. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's just not that simple. The first challenge is the sheer size of these garbage patches. They're huge. They're constantly moving with ocean currents. And there's debris from the ocean surface all the way down to the sea floor. Not to mention all the marine life we would disrupt if we tried to just scoop up debris. So what can we do? Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority. We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep trash out of the ocean in the first place. And we can participate in things like shoreline cleanups. It's a lot easier to deal with debris before it gets to the ocean. Because until we stop marine debris at the source, we'll just be cleaning it up forever.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the sea ice analysis for today. Have lower concentrations of ice in the Beaufort Sea along the Arctic coast there. That remains the main story. Otherwise, open waters through the Alaska waters. In the Chukchi Sea, there is a shoal, a shallow shoal there hanging up the ice there. That's the area that's causing lower concentrations in the Chukchi Sea. For Friday marine forecast for southeast, inside waters, winds generally from the south, 10 to 15, seas as high as 3 feet in the Lynn Canal area. Otherwise, outside waters, winds generally in the south or southwest, 10 to 15, seas as high as 5 feet. And for southeast on Saturday, inside waters generally from the south at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. And for the outside waters, winds generally from the south or southwest at 15 to 20, with seas as high as 8 feet. And that prompts a small craft advisory through this evening and Saturday for the outside waters. For South Central marine forecast, Friday, Prince William Sound, winds generally from the east at 10, seas as high as 2 feet. In the Gulf area, winds from the east at 20, seas as high as 6 feet. And in the Cook Inlet region, winds variable 10 to 20, seas as high as 5 feet in the Kamishak Bay area. For Saturday, Prince William Sound, winds generally from the northeast at 10, seas as high as 2 feet. And Gulf area, winds generally from the east at 15 to 20, seas as high as 6 feet. And Cook Inlet region, winds variable 10 to 10 knots with seas as high as 3 feet. Friday's marine forecast for Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. Around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the north at 10, seas as high as 6 feet. And south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the north at 6. North at 10 with seas as high as 6 feet. And for the north side of the peninsula, winds generally from the north at 10, seas as high as 2 feet. And for Saturday, around Kodiak Island, winds from the north at 10 knots with seas around 6 feet. And the south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the north at 10 with seas as high as 6 feet. And for the north side of the peninsula, winds generally from the north at 10 with seas as high as only 1 foot. For Aleutian Chain, Friday, winds generally from the north at 10 to 15 with seas as high as 6 feet. And for Saturday, continued northerly winds generally from anywhere from 10 to 15 with seas as high as 5 feet. They're just south of the eastern Aleutians. For West Coast on Friday, winds generally from the north at 10 to 15, seas as high as 4 feet near the Pribilofs. And for Saturday, winds continue out of the north 10 to 20 with seas as high as 3 feet. And in Norton Sound, winds generally from the northeast at 15, seas as high as 3 feet. For the Arctic coast, winds generally from the northeast, east or northeast, 15 to 20, seas as high as 3 feet in the open areas. Otherwise, down through Chukchi Sea, northwest coast, winds generally from the northeast at 25, seas as high as 6 feet, and down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from the north, 15 to 20, seas as high as 4 feet. And for Saturday, winds continue out of the northeast on the Arctic coast there, 10 to 15, up through the Chukchi Sea, northwest coast, winds generally from the northeast, 25 to 30, with seas as high as 8 feet. Look for a small craft advisory in effect through Saturday afternoon there. And for the Bering Strait, winds generally from the north at 20, seas as high as 7 feet. For tonight's weather, we're going to be looking at a 1,009 millibar low near the Aleutians, spreading fog and rainfall through the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, some fog and rain also associated with the ridge of high pressure will bring fog and rainfall out there through the Bering and western Aleutians. Otherwise, lingering snow showers tonight with thermal lows in the interior. Fog will show up again along the Arctic coast, and that low pressure system near the southeast bringing some rain to the Panhandle North Gulf Coast. For Saturday's weather, again, afternoon thunderstorms will be the rule, with thermal activity, thermal lows, and a thermal trough through the interior of the state and into British Columbia, with that low near the peninsula.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.